Good afternoon, everyone. Desperado here. Welcome to part 2 of my instrument tutorial. This will be the second departure video, and this will be departures from an airport via radar vectors. So I'm here at Jackson International in the 208 Caravan. This is the cargo edition. We have planned a flight from here to Huntsville, Alabama, and we're fully loaded with a crap load of boxes in the back, ready to go. So I'm going to just auto start the engine real quick because I'm really not familiar with this plane. Alright, sounds like the engine's up and running. And it is. Alright, so you can see our flight plan here. We're just going straight from VOR to VOR until we get to Huntsville. This is only going to focus on the departures. In particular, we want to focus on a radar vector departure. So let's say plan a flight, there's no SID, or ATC didn't assign you a SID. What they will do is give you a radar vector departure, and it'll be in your clearance. Your clearance will sound something like Cessna whatever cleared to wherever via radar vectors, and then it will say usually a fix. In this case, though, radar vectors to the Waycross VOR, then as filed. That would be an online clearance. Your default ATC will always clear you as filed. And by default, they'll give you radar vectors too. So we'll be using default ATC, but I'll be giving my own radar vectors to myself. Now, this is not a good fly day, if you can't tell. There are thunderstorms in the area. It is raining. It is wet. Not a good fly day for any airplane, let alone a Cessna Caravan. But we're going to do it anyway. It's probably going to be bumpy as hell, though. So, radar vectors departure can also include not just vectors to a VOR. It can include a vector to fly inbound on a VOR's particular radial, or fly on an airway. It could be anywhere. So let me check something real quick. Okay, in this case, we're going to say Jack's clearance clears us radar vectors to Waycross, then as filed, which is a pretty common one. So basically, they're going to give us headings and altitudes to fly all the way to Waycross. After we hit Waycross, we are cleared on our filed route. And this is what default ATC would do. They give you radar vectors to get you on the direct line heading to your first waypoint. You may be familiar with the classic maintain all navigation that ATC gives you by default. What they're doing is they're clearing you to maintain your own whatever. That usually means you're within about 5 miles of your filed route, and they figure you can handle it from there. That's default ATC. So let's go ahead and get our IFR clearance.
Jacksonville clearance delivery, FedEx 762, IFR to Huntsville, ready to copy. FedEx 762 is cleared to Huntsville Airport as filed. Fly runway heading, climb and maintain 10,000. Expect light level 200, 10 minutes after departure. Departure frequency is 123.8, squawk 242. departure on 123.8, squawk 2427. FedEx 762, read that correct. Contact ground on 121.9er.
That's a page I've never seen before on this GPS. Pretty neat. I like this view though. I love the moving map. Even on the GNS 430, I still prefer a moving map. Alright, so we are cleared as filed, which means we're going to pretty much vector ourselves to Waycross. Really all there is to it is to listen to ATC. So let's head over to SkyVector and talk about the different radar vectors. Alrighty, SkyVector. This is our flight plan here. Our first waypoint is the Alma VOR AMG, and it is 75 nautical miles north of our departure. Sorry, let it load up a bit. So we're departing Jacksonville, and we pretty much are flying out that way. Now we were told to fly runway heading, which is what well, default ATC normally clears you runway heading. I can't remember if they said actually fly runway heading. I have modified my ATC with Edit Voice Pack, so it might have said something different, which is typical. Normally what default ATC will do is tell you to fly runway heading, and then they'll tell you to proceed on course, or they'll give you a heading to fly and get you on course. They try to put you on your flight plan line that is in the map on FlightSim, what you actually filed. So they won't clear you direct to a waypoint. They will just vector you onto this line here and then tell you to proceed on course, maintain on navigation. That's okay. That works pretty good for default ATC. One other radar vector they could give you is they'll tell us to fly runway heading, and then they'll say proceed direct to the Alma VOR. Now, default ATC will never give you that, but that is one that you can get in real life or on VATSIM. And you'll notice in the video that I will cancel my IFR clearance not long after I take off. That's one trick I like to do with default ATC. There's a few tricks you can do to get it to work realistically. That's one of the things I like to do, is just cancel the IFR clearance once you're airborne and then fly on with flight following. Because with default ATC, once you get flight following, it's pretty much exactly like you're flying IFR. Except you don't have to worry about them telling you to climb and descend. You can maintain your own vertical profile because they don't care how high you climb. Another one that you might get is, let's say there was weather somewhere in this area. One thing ATC might tell us to do is proceed direct to the Taylor VOR and then along Victor 157 to Alma. In which case, even though we filed direct to the Alma and then along Victor 362 to wherever, they may alter our clearance. They do this in real life. This is why you have to write down what ATC tells you, because you don't always get what you filed. If there was weather somewhere over here, let's say near the Oda intersection, then yeah, they would more likely tell us proceed direct Taylor VOR, then along Victor 157 to Alma. So that IFR clearance would be something like Cessna blah 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 cleared to the Taylor VOR via Victor 157 to Alma, then as filed. Climb and maintain 5,000, expect flight plan altitude 10 minutes after departure, blah 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 blah. So, freaking bug flying in my face. So Damn it, go away. That is one clearance. They don't, although you always hear this on VATSIM and default ATC and radar contact. Reason being is because I'm not a VATSIM controller, because I would always throw monkey wrenches at people if I was. You don't always get cleared to your destination airport right away. If you hear ATC, they always tell you cleared to wherever as filed. For one, you don't always get cleared as filed, and you may not be cleared direct to your destination right away. You heard in that clearance earlier, I said clear to the Taylor VOR, then via Victor 157 to Alma, then as filed. Well, what if I didn't say as filed there? That would mean I'm cleared to proceed to the Taylor VOR, then via Victor 157 to Alma, but I cannot proceed past Alma until I'm cleared. What I would do at Alma is enter a holding pattern. Now, most likely, I would query ATC before I got to Alma. Say if they hadn't cleared me prior to that. Say by the time I got to the Winnie intersection, right there. By the time I got there, if I wasn't cleared past Alma, I'd be like, "Hey ATC, what's going on? I need to get going." That's not normally a problem. That's more of a flow thing. And I'll do a flight planning tutorial in the future. Probably be the last video on this playlist. I probably should have made it the first one, but oh well, I've already started. And we'll go into some stuff that would be interesting. By the way, we'll be using SkyVector because we're going to plan a flight assuming you don't have any add-ons. So that's going to be interesting. So SkyVector here is a great free service, especially if you're in the United States. Great free chart viewer online, and I can view SIDS and stars and everything. It's not the best, it gets the job done. And it even has layers to show SIGMETs, AirMets, all other fun stuff, weather radar. So yeah, that is a few radar vectors. So yeah, they don't have to vector you straight to the first waypoint in your flight plan. They could vector you pretty much anywhere. They could have me fly south, turn around, fly over Jacksonville if they need to. Although I would really hope they wouldn't do something like that, but they can. So fly runway heading, then fly direct was one we covered. They'll give you vectors to get on course. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you don't always know what they're going to tell you. So you just have to fly the headings they give you, and you can sort of piece together what they're doing on the fly. So like if they told me to fly runway heading and then told me to fly something weird like 300, that's off in this direction towards the Valdosta VOR. I know that's not direct to my first waypoint, so they may be taking me around something. They may be taking me around weather, taking me around an obstacle, or getting me into the flow with traffic, stuff like that. So yeah, always good to listen to ATC. Very important. Alright, so we're cleared radar vectors to AYS. We're number 2 in line for departure, coming up to runway 26. So we'll just follow that 737 in front of us. We will have to caution wake turbulence on our departure. So to help us out with that, I'm actually going to turn left here and try to make our takeoff run a little longer than normal. Although this airplane is more than capable of taking off before we get into the wake of that 737, so I'm really not too worried about it. I'm just going to pull in here for whatever reason I felt like doing it.
Contact Jacksonville departure on 123.8. Over to 123.8, 512855. Brickyard 3116 cleared for takeoff. Runway 26, service wind 250 and signer. Cleared for takeoff. Runway 26, Brickyard 3116.
Talk about a nasty image on the radar. That looks fun. Here we go. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with this airplane, so if I'm doing something wrong, I apologize. I just like this airplane though. It's pretty cool, very versatile aircraft. Okay, I really want to get in the air before we get in the flight path of that Embraer that took off before us. So, a bit of a steep climb here. Wake turbulence avoidance, kids, if you're wondering why I'm flying a little to the left of the runway and with a steep climb. What I'm about to do is something I often like to do with default ATC.
Contact Jacksonville, departure on 127.0. Jacksonville, departure FedEx 762, cancel IFR at this time. FedEx 762, understand cancel IFR, please confirm. Hybrid 167, please expedite your climb to 10,600. Affirmative, cancel IFR, FedEx 762, FedEx 762, IFR flight plan is canceled, radar service terminated, squawk 1200, maintain VFR, frequency change approved.
What I did there was cancel our IFR heading, or cancel our IFR clearance actually. So we ain't got to deal with default ATC. Normally, Jacksonville in real life, not uncommon for them to radar vector you, or they'll assign you the Jacksonville 5 SID. A normal radar vector out of Jacksonville pretty much consists on fly runway heading, unless you take off on this runway here. I believe that is runway 14. If you look, the city is right here. Runway 14 will take you straight into the city over a bunch of people's houses. So for noise abatement, depending on your departure heading, they often have you fly, say if you were going to north like Waycross like we were, a left turn over and around. And I've seen them do that in real life. I was flying a Cessna 172 over this airport in real life, and I was cautioning traffic that took off from runway 14, and I saw them take off, and I saw them do the circle and everything. It was really cool, and I think it was a U.S. Airways Embraer too, like the one we just saw take off in front of us. Talk about irony. That was a long time ago though. So I'm not sure. I can't remember if it was an Embraer or not. But basically a radar vector departure consists of ATC gives you a heading and an altitude. You acknowledge it, turn your heading bug to that heading, and then fly that heading. They want you to fly that course, so you need to take into account winds. But they want you to fly that heading as a course. So they want you to fly heading 360, a course of 360. So, you know, if your winds are coming out of the west and they're a decent strength, you need to actually correct for that by flying heading 310. Not 310, sorry. 010 if the winds are coming out of the west. No, wait, I got that wrong. 350. Shit, sorry, come on. Brain, work today. That's all there is to it. I did this video as sort of a... really just because it goes into the IFR playlist that I'm doing, so yeah. And this is real-time weather, by the way. OPUS is providing the weather for me. Best weather add-on ever. Can I click that? That's cool. I love Coronato's airplanes. But yeah, this is real-time weather, ladies and gentlemen. Lovely, huh? The rain. Will someone please do some better rain effects? I'm not talking about windshield rain effects. I'm talking about raindrop effects. I've looked everywhere, and all I can ever find is windshield rain effects. Or people talking about it, not an actual raindrop effect on the windshield. I just wish somebody would do it. A decent looking raindrop effect that actually clouds my vision a little bit. Because I can see right through this rain, no problem. And a new rule, especially for payware aircraft developers, windshield raindrop effects should be a must on payware airplanes, especially if they take the time to model the windshield wipers. I mean, there's no point in having windshield wipers if you're not going to model the raindrops. And before anyone says the NGX hit its animation cap, don't even give me that excuse. The NGX hit its animation cap because they modeled some things that probably didn't need to be modeled, but whatever. It's still fun to fly the NGX. So yeah, that's a radar vector departure. Heading direct to the first waypoint or direct to wherever they tell you to go. See you on the next flight.